What's up, Internet? It's Matt at Overkill Woodcraft, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful Freedom Bowl with a star inlay using Upstart Epoxy's Deep Pour. So stick around and we'll get to it. I used just under a gallon of Deep Pour for this bowl and did 3 different layers of about 32 ounces each. So after mixing up the pigments in each one, I poured it, and once the previous layer got tacky, I would pour the next one so I wouldn't have to sand in between each layer. And as you can see, I just used one of these mixing buckets, and I didn't need a mold release or anything like that. It just popped right out. Now, obviously, everyone has their own different techniques and styles on how they like to turn, so I'm not going to give you a ton of technical advice on that. But I chose to use my carbide scrapers here, and if you are going to use carbide scrapers, I would highly recommend having a negative rake on them, because turning epoxy is not like turning wood. It will catch a lot more easily, and when it does, the results can be pretty devastating. So I was switching between a few of my cutting lathe chisels, if you will, such as the paring tool and the skew chisel. But just go ahead and take your time and follow the fundamentals, and be prepared to clean up a huge mess afterwards. So after shaping up that outside a little bit, I went ahead and flipped it and then started cheating and making a ton of epoxy Hawaiian lays on the inside with these Forstner bits. Then I finished hollowing out the inside, and I wet sanded up to 600 grit. And then I wiped down everything really good with denatured alcohol. Then I applied the first coat of finish while it was still in the chuck. And for that I chose Waterlox High Gloss, and this takes about 24 hours to cure in between each coat. So I let it sit and then popped it back on the lathe. I made sure to put a paper towel between the bowl itself and the rubber feet on my cold jaws. And then the paring tool came in pretty handy here, removing that tenon. And then I just smoothed out the bottom the best I could. And then I made the inlay for that logo, medallion, pog, whatever you want to call it. And I just kept checking to make sure that this fit. And then I sanded the bottom of the bowl to 600 and popped it off the lathe. And here's where it's at right now. As you can see, it's looking pretty good. So I went ahead and applied the finish to the bottom of the bowl, let it sit 24 hours. And with that finish, you should really buff in between each coat and wipe down with denatured alcohol. So I did that, and then I applied one more coat of finish and let it sit for another 24 hours, made sure to get into that recess. And then I just used some Starbond to adhere that logo, which I engraved with my laser on some black acrylic. And it worked out really well, because the bottom, as you can see, I was able to get it just thin enough to where, it'd be strong enough for the bottom of the bowl, but it was also thin enough to where the blue epoxy was almost transparent, so you'd be able to see that star. And I'm really happy with these results. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope to see your version of this soon. Take it easy.